to properly practice downward facing dog. Classic, basic, foundational yoga pose, downward dog. There are 3 key things that I see students do, 3 mistakes, and 3 easy solutions. So this is a fundamental pose that can feel really hard and challenging for a while when you're starting yoga, and there's 3 things that you can do to make it easier. The mistake number 1 that I see students making is when they're in downward dog, their fingers are just really light on the mat, almost even lifted, and that means they're putting a lot of weight in the heel of the hand, which is going to put a lot of pressure on your wrist. A lot of beginning yoga students complain of wrist pain because we're not used to bearing weight on our hands. But one way that we can help to mitigate that wrist pain is to learn how to distribute the weight through your whole hand, including your fingertips. So I want you to imagine that your fingertips have little suction cuppy pads on the ends of them. Press down through those suction cups, tuck the toes, and lift your knees and hips up into the air. That pressing down through the finger pads is really going to help you to take the weight out of the wrist. So that's mistake and correction number 1. Mistake I've seen people make number 2 is that they don't press their hips back enough. So what happens is they might have it all right in their hands, but then they go to lift up and they're more here. Their head is forward of the arms and they're almost like they're in a plank pose. So if your shoulders are starting to go over the wrist instead of being really far back behind the wrist, then you're going to have more load on the arms and less into the legs, which makes the pose harder, but you're also not getting the benefits of the pose because you're not getting the stretch in the hamstrings and the stretch in your back. So you want to make sure the solution to that is when you come up, you really want to push the ground away and think of pushing your chest back towards your thighs. Your head can drop between the arms and breathe. And then lower. So really focus on that, pushing your chest back, letting your head try to go through the arms. That's going to work on your shoulder mobility, give you the stretch in the hamstrings, take some load off of the arms. All right, number 3, the last problem that I see, this is the most common one, is I see students trying to straighten their legs too quickly. So if your hamstrings are really tight and you try to straighten your legs, your back is going to round, which is just really not going to be an effective position. It's not good for your back, and it won't give you a great stretch in your hamstrings either. So what that looks like, and it's hard because I actually do have really flexible hamstrings, so if I straighten my legs here, your back might round if you're really tight, and that might be hard to see in my body just because I can do downward facing dog with my legs straight and keep a long spine, but a lot of people can't. It takes a long time to get there. I've been practicing downward facing dog for over a decade, so that's why that looks like that. But for most of us, as we're starting out, we need to bend the legs, do all those things I talked about before, press through the pads of your fingers, push your chest back, and then the hips are high up. And then from there, so with the legs bent, you can have this long spine, and gradually as your hamstrings loosen, you can start to try to straighten the legs and get the heels to the ground while maintaining that long spine. That's kind of the down dog goal, if you will, but it may take you a year or 5 to get there. That's okay. That's why it's called yoga practice. I hope this helps. Keep practicing, keep yogaing. It's all a process. Enjoy the journey, friends. Take care.